Yeah, and as always with our IRCT webinars, you are so welcome to have your camera on if you would prefer, to see the faces of other colleagues around the world. Many of us know each other, but it's also really nice to see new faces, get to know who we're speaking with online here. We're just going to give it 1 or 2 minutes more to let everyone join the meeting. Good to see the team from Germany to India to Uganda, Croatia. Good to see you, Sandra. And some external guests today, which is really nice. We're going to have some devil's advocates actually challenging us a bit on this new work that we're doing, incorporating livelihoods into the holistic rehabilitation pathway. So Berta, you give me a shout if we feel we're ready to go.
I think we can go already. We have Miriam and Mary just joined.
Excellent.
We can go ahead.
Okay. All right. But then it is my great pleasure, Elisa Henry here, sitting in Copenhagen, Denmark, gray skies, but looking out at a bold world here, and glad to have you all joining us. The IRCT is this phenomenal movement of torture rehabilitation centers responsible for treating over 60,000 survivors each year. These webinars in times of COVID and chaos, what have you, are really the glue that are holding this organization together. And this is the last of our series of webinars for 2022. So we're really proud and happy that you prioritize to spend an hour and a half with us. As you can see, this is being recorded because colleagues have already said that they're on vacation and they would love to hear this recording. But the point being here that we get to talk to each other from around the globe. We at the Secretariat have had the opportunity in this past year's time to actually visit centers in Denmark, Georgia, Kosovo, Mexico, Nepal, Nigeria, Palestine, Turkey, Uganda, California in the US to see members in action. And you'll be hearing a lot about their experiences in the course of this call. The theme for this meeting today is how are we integrating livelihoods into the holistic rehabilitation journey? How is it that torture survivors can get an increased level of feeling of self and the ability to stand on their feet and rejoin society, having some socioeconomic sustainable livelihoods in their lives, in addition to the psychological and psychosocial care that they're receiving from torture rehabilitation centers. So in the course of the next 90 minutes, we're going to be debating, we're going to be hearing from the field, and this is of course the point. Our colleagues from Palestine and from Uganda, from Lebanon, from Nepal, and India, who are the steering committee for this strategic work being done across the RCT movement, will be relating what they've learned in this past year. They've been working on pilot projects, and you as the audience are invited to think about and listen closely to your good colleagues. What are they seeing? What are they saying? What lessons have they learned? And what does it have to do with you? How could your center, the torture survivors that you're working with in the place you are, learn from what you're hearing from your colleagues and potentially take this on board in your own organizations? Maybe some of it doesn't make sense. So challenge us, challenge back. To do that officially, we have colleagues from both Oxfam and HIAS who will be joining us as devil's advocates at the end of this session to, ask us those challenging questions, make sure we've really thought this out, and to learn because they have great experience in this field. So without further ado, we would like to introduce a short icebreaker, and I'm going to hand it over to Berta. It's just to keep everyone on your toes and make sure your screens are open. Hopefully all of you have the bandwidth to be able to answer the question that we have as our icebreaker on the screen. Do you provide any kind of socioeconomic support to survivors you treat? And of course, remembering, yes, there is also translation and you have an interpretation button. So please feel free, Spanish and French interpretation. We're trying to be as inclusive in this world. It's as far as we've gotten. So if you could answer the first question, we get a little feedback to start off the day.
Yes, and I can already see some answers. So 15 are saying yes, 1 no, and 3 don't know
Okay,
or not applicable. That was
perfect.
22 yes versus 1 no. Okay.
So we're hearing then already that there are many of the participants on the call who are actually working with this. Maybe not surprising. That could be why you joined the call, to learn, from your colleagues' experiences. But great to hear that there's this kind of acceptance of this idea and people who are actually taking it on board. So we're going to go into the next section. And what this is all about is hearing directly from colleagues in the field. This is always where it happens. Where we learn, gather data, evidence is collected, stories from survivors, their own reality comes into play. So first one up, we're going to hear our colleague Miriam from TRC Palestine. And Miriam, I'm going to be posing a question to you. Why is it important to provide livelihood support to the survivors you're treating in your center? So over to you.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon. Sorry, just 1 second. Let me just turn on my camera. I'm not sure if you can see me.
Fantastic, we're seeing you.
Okay. So, conflict-affected livelihood participants have faced daily stressors that have challenged their engagement in the labor force. The integrated MHPSS services helped address and manage these stressors, building problem-solving skills and strengthening coping mechanisms, as well as livelihood-related soft skills such as teamwork, confidence building, communications, or conflict resolution skills. Through the group activities, the integrated MHPSS services promoted community support and cultivated a sense of belonging among the women of different backgrounds, enhancing self and community efficacy. The long-term benefits of MHPSS integration included improved sustainable livelihood outcomes and a workforce with robust coping mechanisms, social and soft skills. At the individual level, the women increased their self-confidence, faced less emotional distress, and showed positive mental well-being.
That was delivered in an incredibly concise manner, both soft skills, social skills, community skills, right? Problem-solving skills, acceptance. We're hearing some of the key line learning. So thank you very much, Miriam, for that really nice kicking us into action here. We're going to now travel. So we've just been in Palestine, in Ramallah, in fact. Now we're going to be traveling with us to Uganda. Mary from ACTV Uganda, I pose the question to you. What difference does it make when you provide this support in contrast to only providing psychosocial support? So here we're looking for the difference, right? What have you seen in your work in Uganda? Over to you, Mary.
Thanks very much, Risa. I don't know whether you're in a position to share the presentation I had shared with you.
Yes, I can do that. Mary?
Oh, thanks very much, Belta.
It's the one you just sent right now, right? I mean, on email.
Yes.
Okay. Then I'll share it now. There you go.
Thanks very much, Lisa. As you've said, that what difference do we observe in the survivors that we serve? Kindly, Belta, move the slides. With ACTV's experience in providing rehabilitation, someone would want to understand when we say rehabilitation, what do we exactly mean? We are looking at our experience in integrating livelihoods in rehabilitation and what happens if we don't? Move the slide, please. Someone who is out there might want to understand when we say rehabilitation, what do we exactly mean? This refers to the different interventions that are aimed at helping survivors get back to the state they were in before the torture incidents. And if we are looking at these interventions, what difference does it make when we offer mental health and psychosocial support only, and when we integrate it, what exactly happens? Since 1993, we've been offering the rehabilitation services to survivors of torture, and within this period of about 30 years, we've implemented 3 projects on livelihood. That is in 2012 and 2013. We had one that started last year in 2021, which is ongoing. But within this period, we've come to appreciate that with different understanding, different partners in the provision of support have towards livelihood, it is really a gap that it's really hard to rehabilitate survivors minus livelihood, but because of the limited knowledge, most of the partners in the provision of rehabilitating services to have, it has been a challenge not having a fund. However, after the lessons we've observed within this period, ACTV has been trying to reintegrate livelihood. We've been trying to see how best, even minus a fund, can we help these survivors? How best can we provide, make them have a livelihood at the end of it all? Because you realize that we've come to appreciate that minus giving this livelihood is like us having a car minus tires. Delta, please move. Because when you look at this, you will come to appreciate that a crippled society or an individual who has suffered torture, even if you offer treatment, even if you offer psychological counseling, minus helping this person get access to the resources within the community, it will be really hard for this someone who probably had a job earlier and after torture he has lost everything. Someone who was in a position to use his hands or his legs, and at this point he is probably disabled. Even if you rehabilitate, even if you offer counseling and treatment, minus helping him have means of accessing a source of livelihood, you will be having probably a car with the fuel, but you without tires, meaning you cannot do anything with it. Beltamo, please.
So Mary, you have a slide saying what happens if you don't combine.
What means that even within this stage, when we are offering,
So it seems like we're having a bit of a challenge with Mary's connection in Uganda. The screen you're seeing though on, or the slide on the screen is explaining a little bit what happens, right? If there's no socioeconomic support, survivors may relapse. they're not able to follow their treatment and rehabilitation plan because they're focusing very much on their livelihoods and not their rehabilitation plan, constrain the moral fiber of society. And then there might be some unwanted social behaviors. We'll hear more from Mary as she comes back online with us. At this point, are you back with us, Mary?
Yes, sorry, it was because of the network issue. Because earlier I was saying that if we offer if we offer counseling, if we offer treatment, minus helping these survivors have a means of support, we will be like having a car without tires. What do I mean? That if from our experience, still you come to appreciate that we've faced some challenges where probably, for instance, we normally get cases from the medical unit where there will be like, for instance, there is a gentleman who came, but all the times this gentleman came back for leave use, we would find you would find that there is no any improvement made. And on trying to find out what were the challenges, we realized that this particular person was not taking actually the medication because he had nothing to eat. And many times it's still that we've had medical people from the medical department puts treatment on hold, saying that social work, if you don't do this and this, for us, we shall not be able to proceed with this client. Mental health people putting their sessions on hold, saying that given this state, given the distress this person is presenting with, might be as a result of this person not having means of survival. So for us to be able to proceed, we need this person. We need you social workers to do something for this person so that we can proceed with the counseling. Then because there is still, we have a scenario of a gentleman. This gentleman is the father of three children, but you realize that he got tortured in 2016. And he sustained the physical ailments. Then he lost the job due to the caring role the wife had taken on. She also ended up losing her job. These people, they had limited access to basic needs because of the trauma, because of whatever they were going on, whatever was going on with their lives. GBV, domestic violence, especially the abuse, the fighting, became the order of the day, meaning that this not only affected the primary survivor, the wife, but also the children were inclusive as secondary survivors. The ACTV, the medical team, the mental health, the social workers moved with these people a journey, but with limited progress. Medical tried to get some achievements when it came to the recovery of the primary survivor, but then social workers and mental health were not progressing. Not until in 2021, when this gentleman was supported with livelihood support, we were able to make progress. What does this mean? That even if we do provide the mental health, the psychosocial counseling, and the medical treatment, we will not be able to help the survivors restore back the lives they had or close to the lives they had if we don't.
So I think Mary is giving some pretty detailed evidence from the field. In any event, one case, we're actually combining the psychosocial support with some kind of livelihoods support, allowed them to reach this client. I think she has some network problems now, so we're going to move on to Dalal. We're going to be traveling back to the Middle East. So let's go to Lebanon. Seatbelts on, folks. We're going to be hearing from Dalal from Restarts. And Dalal, I'm going to pose you the question. What improvements did you observe in survivors as you provided this combined support? Thanks.
Yes, so based on our livelihood activities and our experience in such activities, the evaluation findings indicated that these interventions were found to help address psychosocial issues in addition to reducing unemployment. So it enabled beneficiaries to meet their own and their families' basic and crucial needs, thus enabling financial survival and facilitating greater economic security. For some beneficiaries, income generation was found to increase independence, social mobility, self-sufficiency, and decision-making ability. Others described how the livelihood activities helped raising their morale and generating self-confidence and hope. Thank you.
So again, some very interesting words: self-confidence, hope, morale, decision-making ability. These are really important aspects of also the psychosocial rehabilitation of regaining agency. Thank you very much, Dalal. So we are maybe providing you with a very strange travel journey this morning, but now we're flying to Nepal. So please join us as our colleague from Nepal describes their work there. And Suraj, first I'm going to pose you the question, what are some of the challenges you have run into in fully integrating this approach? Thanks.
Suraj, can
You saw a nice smiling face of Suraj. While we're waiting to get Suraj back online, there's probably connection problems. That happens, as we all know in this world. I'm going to ask Shirin if you would like to step in. So Shirin, we're going to make a hop to India, and Shirin will give some experience while we're waiting for Suraj to get back with us. Over to you, Shirin.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa ji. The challenges what we saw while during integrating this initiative together with the torture survivor, first thing was that because it was a first experience, first time holding a baby experience for us. So because the community, they don't map the resources what they had and the skill they had. So it was in the starting, it was a ice-breaking thing for us, because when we were having the discussion with them, how they are looking to integrate this in the empowerment things. So they were just only going to the back things what they were having, because the community with whom we are working, they are mostly the marginalized communities. They are working in the brick clean, they are working as a household laborer, agricultural laborers. So they were unable to think beyond that. So it took a lot of our effort on that process to make them think to how to dignify their life and how to put them one step more forward for building their knowledge, their skills, and how to use this process. So this was the first things what we faced the challenge with that. And the second challenges was that because the resources was very limited, and when we started the things, giving the seed and the goat rearing, the things, so we got a lot of the demand, and from the different survivors, they were inviting us to visit their field, to visit the areas, and to also provide the supports to them. The third things were the challenges what we found in doing the fully integration for the livelihood, because it was that when they started to produce the vegetables, but in that process we find the challenges because they don't have the marketing skill for that. So we have to put a lot of the efforts for that process through making the many trainings, doing the many follow-up, and making them connecting with the market. And the things was that the challenges, what we saw, that they were thinking nothing is going to be changed. So this was the things that we were able to break during this small phase of time, that now they understand with this small initiative, the things, the bigger changes can be seen at the grassroots level, and it is changing their life. So this was the few challenges what we found while doing the intervention together with the survivors. But the other hand, there was also the challenges by the staff doing there, by the different stakeholders, just like experts who are going to visit their field. They are also having the things that nothing is going to change. This is the things we are going to. But when they saw the first time when the vegetable was grown, the community learned the things in a very very fast and the positive way. It changed their attitudes toward the community. Because when we are when we are working, so we have something boxes there, so it unboxed the process of the staff as well as the different stakeholders. Either it was from the central government universities, either it was from the National Cooperatives Union of India, or it was some of the individual organizations who were working on this. So these are the few challenges, apart from the survivors, the grassroots workers, and also to the different stakeholders. When we are talking with them, these are the torture survivors, these are the marginalized. So these are the challenges we face in the field.
Thank you, Shirin. Also very clear reporting and giving us a picture of, what goes on both with survivors and the ability to see change happen. A small change can mean something bigger, but also, unlocking and creating maybe space for some discussions at the community level and at the government level with about these communities and these survivors. Very interesting perspective that you've brought us here. Thanks, Shirin. We are now going to move to Nepal. Let's hear Suraj. Are you okay with your connection?
Yeah. Thanks so much. Often is good internet here, but sometimes it happens. Thank you so much, Lisa and the team, and greetings to everyone who is presenting in this webinars. It's really great to have to be connected with all of you. So Bertha, would you like to can you please share the slides? Okay. Well, the next one. Well, I think the most of the things has already been covered in the previous presentations, but I think it's just to start with this vicious cycle to ensure the well-being of the survivors. I think there's a number of issues has to be taken care, and livelihood is one of the main component that has been identified. Without it, there's a number of challenges that we already hear from our colleagues. So, and that has to be done through the dignity, considering the rights of the victims, and also the victim or survivor-centric approach will be somehow, adopted. And at the same time, is the policy and laws and the integration into the system is one of the key things that to ensure the sustainability of the services that we have been delivering to the survivors. So the next slide, please. So I think based on our experience working with this group in this particular component, we have seen two different major challenges, though it is also, we can say it's an opportunity, but at the same time, in the world where we are working, especially in the low and middle income countries, I think, we need to look after this issue, the system level challenges that we have. Often, when we talk about including this livelihood component, especially targeting to the torture, conflict affected torture victims in the country like Nepal, then I think is quite difficult to ensure the government's, the programs has built on with this. And I think it's very essential to have to see the words from the government and the action on the ground. Is that is that the things, is that the policies, that the provisions are being implemented on that way or not. Similarly, the second thing is about the engagement and empowerment of the survivors themselves. I mean, to talk about their issues, for example, their livelihood issues. If that we found is one of the very powerful tool while working with the authorities. For example, if they go in a group and say, like, this is our problem and we need to have some sort of, the programs, resources for our livelihood, for our empowerment, then I think that is much more strong voice. So that's, I think, maybe we also have to see, and we have seen a number of, the technical issues, technical capacities of the survivors groups to be built on. So that's also something that we have seen on the ground. And the next level, maybe we can go to the another slide. Another thing is while working with the survivors group in the community, like at the implementation level, when you talk about their livelihood empowerment, livelihood issues, then we already they had a lot of if we don't have this livelihood component going on, then there is a huge chance of being back to the same condition. So that's why also I think and at the same time, we also have to ensure it's not the only livelihood or psychosocial or health or something that will going to work. There should be a holistic, the rehabilitation kind of support system so that the people will get, and then we can see the impact of the mental health program. We can see the impact of the livelihood program. In the experience of Nepal, we have our counselors been mobilized, in the community to do a regular follow-up, to go and visiting these women who have been enrolled in the livelihood programs, and also, the talking with them with their, this day-to-day stressors, so talking with them day-to-day issues. I mean, that is also somehow empowered themselves in order to get the things to be done on the right way. So I think that's the holistic rehabilitation support is being one of the, is also one of the issue. And also, I think another thing is about the of course the resources, especially the sector where we are intervening our programs. It requires long-term funding until the system will take over it. I mean, as in often cases when go and visit many stakeholders, they say like, oh, it's a project for some times, but the country like Nepal, it doesn't going to work at all. You have to provide the continuous support, and then only we can and also has to work together with the system, with the government, and then I think the long-term funding commitment is certainly is one of the key challenge in this area. So I think that's also we need to ensure to make the things happen. So I think I will stop here. And thank you, Lisa. Yeah.
Thank you. So folks, you've now heard, snapshots of some of the challenges, some of the findings from these different countries around the world. I'm going to actually interject here because otherwise we're going to allow each of our speakers to unpack a little bit more their projects. But I would like to offer some space. Is there anyone who's on the call with us now? We're over 50 people who has an immediate question to any of the presenters. Has anything occurred to you, a question you want to put into play already now? And if you could raise your hand, I see Vincenzo Barca with a hand up. So we'll start with Vincenzo, then we will go to Murad, and then Fida. Vincenzo, would you like to lead off? Open your microphone, please.
Okay. Morning. Vous m'entendez? My question in French.
Oui, oui, on a l'interprétation. So
Okay.
Vous pouvez parler français. Oui.
Bon, je suis psychiatre. Je travaille dans un centre qui soigne les victimes de torture à Rome. C'est un petit centre. On est une quinzaine de personnes et on ne travaille que 3 jours sur 7. Et donc, on travaille, notre méthode est une méthode holistique, comme la plupart des méthodes qui sont communes, disons, à nos centres. Bon, je voulais justement dire que j'ai trouvé très intéressant les approches présentées par nos collègues des différents pays. Et je veux dire que le problème des moyens de subsistance, d'assurer des moyens de subsistance à nos patients est l'un des plus gros que nous avons. Et c'est vraiment un défi parce qu'en étant une petite structure. Et même en ayant bâti un réseau avec les structures publiques et les associations qui travaillent avec les migrants, c'est peut-être le problème, ça continue à être un problème énorme, celui de favoriser l'accès aux moyens de subsistance pour les victimes de torture. Ce qui fait, comme nos collègues l'ont dit, que nos projets, nos plans de traitement avec ces victimes sont sûrement déficitaires parce qu'ils n'arrivent pas à couvrir cet aspect. Donc, la plupart des personnes que nous voyons, malheureusement, quand ils ont des travails, quand ils arrivent au marché du travail, ils n'ont que des travails très, très précaires, sous-payés, et exploités. Et ça, c'est la condition la plus fréquente de nos patients. Donc, c'est un problème énorme, c'est un problème que, comme j'ai déjà dit, disons, ne permet pas.
Thank you, Vincenzo.
Pardon?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we're definitely hearing this, and I think your point is well taken, that the context is very different around the world, obviously. And I think the point that we're trying to have a look at this, and I think maybe some of the work that Suraj was talking about on the policy issue, right? So the right to rehabilitation can be a place that we can be unpacking a little bit more. What are state obligations? Because we know, and we will put out there, the solution is not that we're going to have a stream of funding that's going to come down and we can solve all the, socioeconomic problems of all torture survivors around the world. It's more putting the policy issue on the table and some potential solutions of maybe interacting at the policy level more, while we do some activities in Global South where this is maybe a more, well, it has different contours, right? The challenge. But thank you, Vincenzo. So others can have time. I hope your question was much appreciated, your comment there. I'm going to go to Murad and then Fida and Emmanuel, and then we will go on to the next section. Murad, please, from HIAS.
Hey guys, can you hear me properly? Okay, so my question may be actually a bit early, that maybe others will, when they go deep diving into their programming, I'll get further more insight. But the first thing that came in mind is, from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of need when it comes to basic needs. And when we're talking about livelihoods, it's the start of shifting from meeting the basic needs towards resilience to different participants, so that they'll be able to meet their basic needs without any support from different organizations or initiatives. So how are you taking that into consideration? The second thing is, I do understand that there's different contexts, and like each and every context is unique by its own, but on what basis do you determine which market value of change that you're planning on targeting when you do your livelihoods programming? And the targeting approach of the participants themselves, have you faced any dropouts? And if you did, why? Is it because there's a huge emphasis when it comes to the approach that we're focusing on the livelihoods, and in a way or another, we may be adding extra pressure on the participants with this holistic approach, rather than in a way or another providing like more in an ease and comfort way? I think most of those questions will be addressed later on, but I'm just putting them out there so that opening an area for discussions. Thank you.
Excellent, Murad. Thank you. And Murad, for those on the call who might not know, is one of our devil's advocates that we've invited in. He's worked for years with, right? Livelihoods. You hear his expertise shining through there. So the speakers who will be coming on, maybe you can keep some of this in mind, and you might want to address some of these issues in your talks as you're going to be presenting again from Nepal and India and Uganda and Lebanon and Palestine. Thank you very much for bringing that. So it's about, the sustainability of this, right? And then how are we targeting both which survivors are getting this support, as I heard it, Marat, and then also how are we targeting which markets to enter into? Yeah, because it's a challenging place to be. In the same way, we have Fida. Fida is also an expert from Oxfam invited on as a devil's advocate. I understand you're a gender expert, but please, Fida, your questions.
Thank you. I'm a gender and protection officer actually for Oxfam Palestine. And I have a very specific question for the presentation from Uganda. You mentioned when you talked about the what if you don't provide livelihood alongside the other services, what would happen or what are the consequences? And two answers like caught my attention. Actually, I couldn't make the linkages. You said that there is a certain risk on the moral fiber of the society, and there is a risk of other survivors of torture becoming LGBTQI. Like, can you please elaborate on the linkage between the two? How is the lack of livelihood contributing to these consequences? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Fida. Also, good pickup. And Mary, you have heard these questions. There are also other colleagues from Uganda on the call. So it might be that Sam or some of the other colleagues also from Uganda can comment on that. Now we're also going to have a last question from our colleague, Emmanuel. Emmanuel, please.
Bonjour. Je ne sais pas si je dois poser des questions ou alors intervenir comme avocat du diable. Alors, si vous me le permettez, je voudrais d'abord vous saluer toutes et tous et me présenter à vous. Donc, je suis Emmanuel Kabengele-Mpinga. Je suis professeur à la faculté de médecine de l'Université de Genève. Je travaille sur les questions de torture depuis un certain temps, donc dans les années 95 déjà, hein, avec l'IRCT, et j'ai publié un certain nombre de travaux sur la question. Alors, je remercie les organisateurs qui m'ont demandé d'intervenir comme avocat du diable. Je ne serai pas long, je serai bref. Je remercie aussi les personnes qui nous ont présenté les cas du Liban, de l'Ouganda, de l'Inde et du Népal pour ces contributions. Mais je voudrais tout de suite vous dire que lorsqu'il s'agit de distribuer les moyens, de distribuer l'argent, il y a toujours des luttes de pouvoir et d'influence. Ce que vous devez garder d'abord en tête, ce n'est pas comme une bénédiction religieuse. La deuxième chose, c'est que vous avez des arguments, mais en face, vous aurez aussi des contre-arguments. Alors, ce sont ces contre-arguments que je vais devoir poser pour vous permettre, lorsque vous allez travailler sur ces questions, de garder cela en tête et de réfléchir en se disant comment je répondrai à ça. Alors, une première contre-argumentation, un premier élément, si moi je suis dans le conseil de la ville qui doit décider d'attribuer des moyens de subsistance, je vous dirais, mais non, ce que vous me demandez là relève de la responsabilité individuelle. Ce n'est pas une question qui doit préoccuper la ville ou quoi. Les moyens de subsistance, on ne les distribue pas comme ça, c'est à chacun de trouver ses moyens de subsistance. Voilà. Deuxième argument, contre-argument que je peux vous mettre sur la table, c'est vous dire, mais dans ce pays, nous avons d'autres priorités. Priorités de santé, priorités d'éducation. Quels sont les arguments que vous allez me donner pour me montrer que il faut que le conseil de ville ou l'autorité budgétaire attribue des moyens à votre projet ou la meilleure façon d'encadrer les survivants de torture. Troisième argument, c'est ressorti déjà un peu, mais moi j'irai plus loin, c'est un argument d'ordre méthodologique. Je vous dirais, mais démontrez-moi de manière évidente que là où je vais mettre $1, cela va me rapporter combien? C'est sur base de ça que je déciderai si oui ou non je vous attribuerai tel ou tel fonds que vous demandez. L'autre élément que vous devez garder en tête, c'est que je pourrais aussi vous dire qu'il y a des limites budgétaires. Et que c'est lié à ce que je venais de dire avant. Alors, en ce moment-là, comment vous me démontrez que où est-ce que je vais trouver d'autres argent pour financer vos demandes? L'avant-dernier ou l'élément suivant, c'est l'opinion publique. L'opinion publique dans les pays où, soit dans les pays où nous vivons, les pays d'accueil des survivants, ou dans les pays d'origine des survivants. Donc, on peut vous dire dans les pays d'accueil que il y a une opinion publique. D'abord, vous le voyez très bien, contre tout ce qui touche l'immigration, et que les gouvernements ne veulent pas mettre de l'argent pour supporter des gens qui ne lui apportent pas grand-chose. Alors, comment vous allez répondre à cela? Dans les pays d'origine, on vous dira, mais écoutez, il y a un argument éthique. Vous nous demandez, nous, de financer les soins et la réhabilitation des survivants, mais en même temps, à côté d'eux, là, il y a d'autres pauvres qui sont même plus pauvres que ces survivants. Comment vous pouvez justifier le fait qu'éthiquement, qu'on s'intéresse à ces personnes qui sont, hein, alors ça me ramène à un autre argument, un argument d'ordre épidémiologique. Ils sont peu nombreux dans la population. Pourquoi dois-je m'intéresser à un groupe d'à peine moins de 1000 ou de 2000 personnes? Alors qu'en face, j'ai des centaines de milliers ou des millions d'autres demandes de personnes qui sont pauvres. Je vais terminer peut-être par le dernier, c'est un argument d'ordre juridique. Quels sont les cadres, les normes juridiques sur lesquelles vous devez vous baser pour démontrer qu'il faut investir dans les moyens de subsistance des survivants de torture. Voilà donc ce que je vous renvoie pour que vous gardiez en tête que les demandes des moyens de subsistance, l'encadrement, en face, vous pouvez vous retrouver avec des questions telles que celles que je viens d'évoquer. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, and a pleasure to have you here, as it is with the others. And when I say devil's advocate, I just want to make sure everyone understands we've asked some people to join us to kind of challenge us, and that's what I mean by devil's advocate. And that is, that's the questions that we've heard right now. I'm going to go, thank you very much to those with comments. To the first, then we're going to repeat the speakers, right? So now I'm going to go to Suraj. Having some of these questions in mind, that means you may have to be a bit agile, and maybe you're not going to do the exact presentation you prepared, but you have, and we're also going to look at time. If you could give a 5-minute interjection now, Suraj, and feel free to respond to some of the questions that have been raised. You know, in addition to what you had prepared for the presentation, to keep this a bit, you know, now we have some things on the table. Over to you, Suraj. And from Suraj, afterwards, we'll go to Dalal.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lisa. And I think, thank you so much, Professor Emmanuel, for your very insightful, you know, comments. And I think, you know, not going with all this, but we can show some of the evidence of the work that we have done. So Bertha, can you please just play the video for 2 minutes? I mean, that will give some sort of, you know, the the icebreaker, and then I will present a little bit more.
I will do that.
Thanks.
There you go.
यो टेम्पो मेरो लागि त जागिरै भन्नुपर्छ किनभने अब यो टेम्पो हुन्थेन भने त एकदमै गाह्रो थियो बच्चा-बच्चीलाई पढाउन लेखाउन हरेक कुराहरू चाहिँ घरको व्यावहारिकता मिलाउन चाहिँ एकदमै गाह्रो थियो अहिले यो टेम्पो भएदेखि चाहिँ एकदमै सहज भएको छ यो टेम्पोले दिनमा 500 देखि लिएर 1500 सम्म कमाउँछ यो टेम्पोले पैसा त ल्यायो पैसा बाहेक मेरो छोराछोरीको शिक्षा ल्यायो घरमा बुढाबुढीको मिलन ल्यायो घर परिवारमा खुसी ल्यायो आत्मसम्मान ल्यायो आत्मखुसी एकदमै आत्ममनोबल बढेर आयो
टिपी नेपालले विगत 3 वर्षदेखि नेपालका पश्चिम क्षेत्रका केही जिल्लाहरू जस्तो कि बाँके बर्दिया कैलाली र दाङ जिल्लाहरूमा द्वन्द्वकालका यातनाबाट प्रभावित भएका व्यक्तिहरूसँग काम गरिरहेको छ र यस क्रममा लगभग 1000 भन्दा बढी व्यक्तिहरूले लाभान्वित भएका छन्
बढी तनावको कारणले पनि मलाई एकदमै हुने के जस्तो कि कहिलेकाहीँ मर्दिन पाए हुन्थ्यो भन्ने जस्तो लाग्ने त्यस्तो दिक्क लागेर आउने त्यस्तोसम्म हुन्थ्यो र त्यतिखेर चाहिँ 1 हप्ताको मनोसामाजिक परामर्श तालिम लिइसकेपछि चाहिँ बाँच्नुपर्छ केही गर्नुपर्छ भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ सिकायो र त्यो भन्दा पछाडि पनि अब म बिरामी हुँदाखेरि पनि उपचारको लागि सहयोग गर्नुभएको थियो
पहिला मलाई निद्रा नलाग्ने चिन्ता गरिलाग्ने अनि खाना मन नलाग्ने त्यस्तै हुन्थ्यो अनि सरले सोध्नुभयो तालिममा त्यही गर्नु सरले हामीलाई तालिम दिनुभयो यस्तो सोध्नु हुँदैन यस्तो गर्ने होइन यस्तो सबैलाई हुन्छ हामी सबैलाई पर्छ भन्नुभयो सरले औषधि दिलाइदिनुभयो औषधि खान्छु
एकदम दुःख परेको थियो मलाई म आफै रुने आफै कराउने यताउता गर्ने आफै कोहीसँग बोल्न मन नलाग्ने त्यस्तो भएको थियो अनि यो तालिम गरेपछि राम्रो भयो राम्रो लाग्यो अहिले चाहिँ राम्रो लाग्छ
Yeah, thank you. It's a 7 minutes video, and we have some evidence. It's a statement shared by the participants who have been enrolled in this livelihood program. It's not only the livelihood program, but also we have psychosocial health program. So we say it's more holistic one. So definitely, there is the change. The first case that you have seen in the video is a woman. She's driving a 3-wheeler, tempo, tuk-tuk. And we didn't do much. We just changed her battery. In fact, it was due to not the damaging her battery. She could not run that the tuk-tuk for a long time. It was just a hole, and we just had that the support from our project, and then she started earning, and it's 500 to 1500 rupees per day she's earning from this occupation. That means, and she was saying like it's not only the money, it also brought the education for the children. It's also brought the family environment, good family environment there. So it means it has a lot of things. So we have to think in that way, that it's not from one aspect only. So I will just like to give some highlights. Now how we select the people. For example, though we were reaching more than 1,000 people, providing different sort of services, but in our livelihood program we have 46 women only, and those 46 women we identified through the rigorous process. We have our counselors, they go there, they do some sort of the assessment, there's some inclusion criteria, and based on that inclusion criteria, those the economic condition is really poor, then they are enrolled in the services, and then they were also being provided continuous psychosocial intervention, because we know these all torture survivors, they have faced a lot of the psychological issues in their life. So if you unless if you don't make them prepare emotionally and mentally, then it's really difficult to continue their the services. So that's why before enrolling to any economic activities, they were enrolled in our motivational workshop. That was for 2 days, where our counselors actually, gathered them and did a lot of assessment, the emotional support for them. And then after only we involved them in a 3 days business planning workshop. And in that business planning workshop, we had our consultant, they came here, and there was a, the number of discussion on the choices, interest, the feasibility, and also the, the markets. All those are sort of things they discuss in a group, and then they made the individual business plan. And based on that individual business plan, we have provided limited amount of money. It's not a cash, but we support it, for example, to build the shed or to buy some, livestock they wanted to, start with, to set up some small groceries. So those sort of things that we have done, and we also continuously, the follow up them, and this, recently when we were in the field, we found some of the women, they're earning, after from the pig farming itself. One of the women, she was referring 250,000 Nepali rupees she has earned. So actually we have invested around not more than $300, and now she is earning around, around $2,500 from that, the investment. And it's not that everybody, all the 46 cases are doing the same. Of course, we did have some, the drop back as well. One of the, the commentators here had a question. Yeah, we do have 3 cases not doing very good. We have that drop back. There were some reasons because of their, the psychological conditions that they could not continue their business that as their plan. But most of the cases have been, they're doing good. But that is not only the case. I mean, the key condition is the follow-up, because these people to whom we are working with is not just the poor. It's not just the, coming from the very economic poor condition, but they also did have very, very, very horrible experience in their life. So have a lot of, the stressors, mental health issues, physical health issues. Also, they are looking for the justice for the long time. So I think, that's why we need to have a very rigorous follow-up and very rigorous emotional support over the time period. Then only we can see the impact of the things that we have been expecting for. So I will stop here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Suraj. I think you responded directly to a couple of questions. The point also being there's a lot of data being collected. So Emmanuel, I think we're very aware of, and also the other, Frida, I think you were talking about monitoring dropouts and monitoring market interventions. This is a part that we're putting into these projects, and I think we're learning from as we move forward. It's yeah, obviously there's a power balance, there's a power play that goes on. We need to be aware of that. Thanks, Suraj, for your intervention. I'm going rapidly to Dalal. Also a brief one there, and maybe you can also be a little bit agile. And if there's a couple of the questions that have been posed that you could answer in the course of your 5 minutes, that would be awesome. Thanks, Dalal.
Yes, I guess within my presentation, I'll be answering some of the questions. Yeah, please, Beta.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So on June 2022, Restart Center, in partnership with the IRCT, has started the implementation of a livelihood project aiming at enhancing the economic situation and livelihood capacity of vulnerable Lebanese population living in North Lebanon through generating socio-economic development opportunities. To carry out this project, the next slide, please. To carry out this project, 6 youth with mild intellectual disability benefited from 120 hours of plumbing courses, in addition to 1 month training supervised in different workshops. The idea of including this type of vulnerabilities emerged from the belief that these people need support all their lives just to get by in everyday life, while they are able to learn practical life skills and they can be functional in their daily life. The establishment of the plumber workshop, the atelier, took around 4 months of preparation and hard work to be accomplished. As you can see in the picture here, it was nothing. Then we have established it, we have furnished it, and we have brought all these staff to be well equipped, and in order to be used by the beneficiaries. So the students started their intensive plumbing courses on a daily basis. Please, Beta, the second slide, and crown these efforts with practical 1-month training. At the end of the classes, each student was provided with a kit composed of the required materials, which are the hand tools, to be able to work independently. And as you can see, the beneficiaries gained several competences, such as carrying out installations of appliance and water pipes, maintain and repair water facilities and equipment, install drainage and water disposal systems. Okay. So after the completion of the plumbing course, the following impact has been revealed. 52% of improvement were shown in what relates to developing relational skills. 83% of beneficiaries acknowledged that they are now spending their day doing useful things, feeling successful, and strengthening their independence. 100% reported developing technical skills and succeeding in learning the profession. So more than 100% improvement were shown in what relates to developing social and communication skills. At the end, I would like to shed the light on the importance of the importance of implementing the livelihood activities that are fundamental in assisting survivors, reinforcing their self-resilience, their hope, their dignity, their integration in society, their social right in having the opportunity to gain skills and work, and protecting them and generating a healthy community in which all residents have access to an equal education, a quality education, and adequate employment. Thank you.
Okay, Dalal, and making a very strong case here for the interaction between, right? The idea that this improvement in self-resilience, in understanding of one's own dignity, the relational aspects, of course, learning a technical skill, not to take that for granted, but this whole idea of, you know, the independence, the feeling of independence. So, I mean, people who've been psychologically impacted by an experience of trauma or torture, coming out of this kind of activity, I think this is a really interesting lens that you've put on the picture for us. So thank you very much, Dalal.
Thank you.
I am going to move then to Uganda again. Mary, if you would like to take the floor for 5 minutes, and if you could respond to the questions that were posed, that would be helpful. Thanks, Mary.
Thanks very much, Lisa, and thanks Abu, Fid, and others who raised the questions. One was in line with the basic needs and how sustainable it is, how is it building the resilience among the survivors? Yes, Abu, we are using basic needs as just a pathway to those really very, very vulnerable clients. There are those ones where you can't proceed. Someone is homeless. Maybe it's from prison, has found the family broken down. He has no means of tracing for them. this someone has nowhere to go, yet you have to rehabilitate. Meaning that if you're to offer medical treatment, if you're to offer mental health counseling, you have to be with this someone has to be with an address where he or she lives. However, when it comes to building resilience of survivors of torture, through our livelihood programs, we started with a market survey. This one helped us with appreciating what is out there, what services are really needed in the communities, and how best can we address them. Through this, through our different interventions, we build the capacities of these people. For instance, those ones we equip with the skills in tailoring. There are those ones who are engaged into saving, the village savings and loans associations, that are empowered with the financial literacy and how to go about it. We appreciate that at the end of it all, when someone is empowered, we've built their resilience. They are now in position to offer the best needs to themselves. They are no longer dependent on anyone else. Then we have someone was concerned about for the period when we were not having the support, how were we managing? It was really hard, because even till now we have IRCT funding these interventions towards restoring livelihoods, but the organization we used to deal with the forming groups. We could put them into groups, build their capacities in financial literacy, maybe them saving, and then maybe from these groups they can learn from each other the different interventions. But still, this was with a lot of difficulties due to the limited funding in the area. Then someone was raising an issue to do with how does the failure to provide livelihood affect maybe the moral fiber. You'll have to appreciate that sometimes the conditions these people are into, they're forced on the wall, they can't do anything to live. For instance, those ones who go for prostitution, it means that, okay, the only way probably I can keep my family going is into maybe going into prostitution. So it's not probably something that some people might perceive it as something bad, but this is the only way how someone is going to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, for the responses and also explanation of some of the aspects of your project with the market surveys and understanding the complexity of what jobs are available and how people are responding. We'll do this. We're going to travel then back to Palestine, Miriam, and then we will go to India. So we're getting the last perspective, Miriam, of things you may have heard from the questions asked, and a little bit more about your project that's going on in Palestine. Over to you, Miriam.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to not have sent my presentation in time. Maybe I can share screen, or if it's not needed, I can just speak about it real fast.
As you prefer, Miriam. You can do whatever you prefer or is best for you.
Yeah, okay, I can just go through it real fast then. Okay, so our project aimed at measuring the impact of an integrated livelihoods intervention and MHPSS services on Palestinian women in marginalized areas. The target locations were Jericho, Hebron, and East Jerusalem. The purpose of the assessment, the outcomes of the study were, outcome one was to understand the impact of a livelihoods intervention on the mental well-being of Palestinian women in rural areas. Number two was to identify the challenges to livelihoods that Palestinian women in rural areas face And outcome 3 was to determine whether there are systematic differences between impact on women in the 3 targeted areas. Our activities were to provide MHPSS services and also vocational training. Vocational training included beauty salons, embroidery, arts and handcrafts. So how we selected our participants, we requested a list from the Palestinian Ministry of Detainees and Ex-Detainees Affairs. They gave us 93 names of 93 women. From the 93, we identified 68 women. So of the, we assessed the 68 women, we provided psychological first aid and crisis interventions. From this, from the test, 40 women were identified who needed, who were in dire need of additional psychological support services. And these women resided in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. 43% were from the South. These women suffered from many disorders, including generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, schizophrenia, and acute stress disorder. I have some demographics, but the ages range between 20 and over 50. Most of them were housewives, and they didn't have any jobs. 60% lived below the poverty line. Types of intervention that we provided were cognitive behavioral therapy, narrative therapy, and CBT and narrative therapy. We conducted many pre and post tests for the participants. The types of tests included well-being, the subjective units of distress scale, symptoms checklist, the post-traumatic stress disorder, Beck depression inventory test, self-esteem test, and integration into the family and society, and problem-solving test. Overall, from the psychologist's observations, about 80% of the participants reported an increase in their mental well-being. Examples of the indicators we used, we had a lot of questions, but I will just give a brief overview of maybe 5. So one question was we asked if they felt cheerful and were in good spirit. From the pre-tests, 35% said they only felt cheerful some of the time. From the post-test, 50% said most of the time. So most of them were feeling better. Feeling calm and relaxed. 26% said only sometimes from the pre-test. Post-test, 57.4% reported all of the time. Feeling active and vigorous. From the pre-test, 29% said sometimes, and from the post-test, 66% said all of the time. I wake up feeling fresh and rested. From the pre-testing, about 22% of participants reported that at no time did they wake up feeling fresh and rested.
Miriam, sorry that I interject, but I think if you actually have those in the slides, like statistics or graphics, I think maybe you could share the screen because that would be interesting to see in a graphic if you have it.
Sorry, I didn't put it in a graph or a table because sorry, I forgot to mention that we're not finished with the test, reporting, because most of our participants, they just finished early this month they just finished their vocational training. So results may vary after during the final report. I apologize.
It's fine.
That's fine, Miriam. I think it's really, again, interesting here to hear different perspectives and also different methodologies, right? So we're a global organization, and I think it's really interesting to think about how you've been following with the pre and then the post surveys about, attitude, how people are feeling, are they able to sleep well? I think really looking at the psychosocial perspective and how this livelihoods actually influenced, right? Or there can be some causality here we're looking at, right?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, there's some other points you want to bring into play here?
Just one last thing. During the observation, during the psychologist's observation of participants who received MHPSS services and vocational training, they found that most beneficiaries experienced an increase in the following. One, feelings of independence and self-confidence, were 55%. This is 55% of beneficiaries felt more independent and self-confident. 48% felt more integrated into the family. They became, they were able to speak to their family members, maybe to their parents. They felt better around their parents. 44% were able to create and maintain social relationships. 75% said that they understood how to solve their own issues on their own. And 52.9% felt satisfied with their life and had a positive outlook on their life. So, yeah.
Thank you very much for that brief but super, I think, compelling narrative that you've provided us. And there'll be more reporting, as you said, when these reports are, these projects are all completed, we'll do a global learning and share it out throughout our organization. Miriam, I'm going to, if you would allow me, invite your colleague from India to have the last 5-minute session. Then we're going to have our devil's advocates, come back to us to hear, what are you now hearing? Shirin, would you like to take 5 minutes, please?
Yeah. Bhattaji, will you share the presentation?
Yes, we'll do that. There you go.
Yeah, this is the small presentation what we did in this 7 months. So before that, during the COVID time, IRCT has supported us with a few special grant during the COVID to provide the support to the survivor of the torture. That time we utilized that money for doing the kitchen gardening, specifically to the most marginalized communities. Here we are referring the most marginalized communities because when we are doing from the long time when our organization was formed, we saw that here in India, the torture and the caste system is very similar. It is a part it is a two sides of the coin. So during the torture and organized violence, the whole community faced as a community punishment. And we found that in our work from having more than 2 decades. So this why we here specifically focus to the survivor of the most marginalized communities. But during this time, it was in a very few months, we got a lot of the success because already during the COVID time, we have the many discussion within the community because that time they were not going outside for any work and they didn't have any alternative works to do. So that time when they grew the vegetables, first time when the community ate the fresh vegetables, because before that they were unable to eat and to provide the nourishment to the families. So this was ice-breaking for them, first turning learning experience for the community to having the dignity that they can contribute something together to the families. So this time we utilize in a very strategic way for providing the support to the survivor of the torture victims. So the whole process and the design was based on the model village concept. Here we have selected the few villages who were tortured by the police, and that community faced a lot of the fear and the phobias that they were unable to go outside and work. Due to result of that, in one villages 18 children died due to hunger. So these types of villages we very specifically chosen and started to work with them. In Ani, we provided the 27 goat, in which there were the 25 female and the 2 males. We provided goats to the female family leader or female member of the family, because the men are mostly going to outside the work and the female are in the home, so they can take care of the goats. But here we have very specifically talked with the communities, because this community children are not going to the school. They don't have anything. So that we have made a promise that after that they are going to send the children to the school. And secondly, we provided the vegetables to 2,261 families in Varanasi, which is the constituency of our Prime Minister in the Sonbhadra and the Badaयूं district of the Uttar Pradesh. Here we did this initiative together with the discussion of the committee member, discussion what the resources and the spaces the community had, and also together with a visit by the government expert from the universities, from the cooperatives, as well as from the expert visit by the different organizations who are specifically working on this issue. So this is the things what we have supported in this project. And before starting this project, pre-support before starting the livelihood project, because we did a baseline survey that was on the mapping their knowledge, attitude, and practice, what they had and how they are looking forward for that. And we organized several trainings to the community leaders as well as to the staff on doing the goat training project and also doing the kitchen gardening. As before in the challenges, I discussed how we break the boxes within the community, within the staff, as creating a resilience towards each other, because there was a big barriers and big gaps. So this community was not getting the benefit of that. Through this community, we build their skill, we build their knowledge. And the motive behind was to have to come out with the specific documents so we can advocate with the government for integrating this type of things in the holistic rehabilitation. Already we are there is for the mental health bills we have, but specifically it is not related to the rehabilitation. But when we were working before together with the dignity for adopting the more torture-free model village, and that model village concept was adopted by our Prime Minister, and later he has said every member of parliament and the MLAs and the government official to adopt one village specifically to provide the welfare activities. And what was the outcome for this? The survivors regained the self-esteem and resilience among them for the livelihood initiative, because before that they were thinking that nothing has changed. So now they are thinking that something is changed. We have mapped the well-being, we have provided the psychosocial support through the testimonial to the survivors, and we also did the participation scale, which maps their nutrition values, how much time they are giving in the family, taking care of themselves, and including also the employment things. Before that, we thought that there was a less involvement of the survivors while doing the employment and economically contributing to their families. But in this resources, we found that around 36,536 kg of vegetables were grown in summer season. And already the vegetable is coming because they have also sown the seed for the winter vegetables. In the small spaces, they grown this. And we found that they 2,523 kg of vegetable were sold, and they earned 26,775 rupees through selling their vegetables. And one of the most important things what we occur, that the money what they sold the vegetables was handed over to the female member or head of the families, and she utilized that money for doing the medical treatment, for buying the clothes for the cold season, and also for the education of the children. This was the things how they use. And we organized as we were discussing, for putting the burdens on that, we organized the regular visit, we organized the regular focus group discussion to know, to increase their knowledge, and because it is the first time they are doing this, so to nurture them, to give our knowledge what we have. And what the impact we saw, we selected the few villages and the few families, and we saw that other torture survivors, they themselves bought the seed of the vegetables and they started the kitchen gardening of their own. So through this, we have saw that how our thing is replicated from a small pilot initiatives to the different communities whom they are working, because everybody is sharing their experience to each other, and we are also putting the photographs and the other things, and also bringing the knowledge from the one community to the other community, how they are doing and how they are economically sustained. And the reason is that when they are economically sustained, they are taking well care of their own families. They are spending their times within their families, it increasing their well-being. And when they have the resources, then they are advocating the cases in the court, in the administration process for getting the justice, because these communities doesn't have money for every time going to the from the villages to the court, and it is a very cost effective. So this process. Thank you.
Excellent, Shirin. And you see, we're hearing across the board learnings about how you're combining testimonial therapy, right, with the psychosocial therapy, right, with the livelihood support. We're looking at some data coming back in on what people think about it, what they're actually doing with the money they're gaining. We're also hearing your role as an organization, right? Communicating about this, telling others about it. And then this trickle-down effect going on in the community, that people themselves taking it upon themselves to do this kind of activity, seeing that it's worked maybe with their neighbor. So at this time, in the last few minutes of the call, as we say, we know this is not like this is not a place where we're going to be sending funding out throughout the entire world on this. We're looking at policy change. We saw a great example in the chat. I hope you noted it, from one of our colleagues in Kenya, where they actually got some reparations coming in to survivors of torture, and some of that reparation money could go to the livelihoods of the survivor. We're hearing CPO Nepal talking about policy. We're hearing India talking about community change and getting the word out, inspiring hope. We're talking a lot about the mental health improvements that activities like this actually contribute to from our colleagues in both Palestine and Lebanon. Last 2 minutes, are there any of our devil's advocates who would like to give us a last word, a short sentence to take us into the next year, as we will go into the next phase of this project, which will be opening up to calls for proposals for other organizations within IRCT global movement? Fida, over to you, please.
Thank you, Lisa. Just a quick word. I've been very inspired by all of that I heard today from all around the participants. Great work. I just want to emphasize one point, gained through experience that I've been doing through the years, and from your experience as well. It's the intention, the purpose. Like, I would love to see all of us approaching this integration of livelihood with torture, GBV, whatever response we have, with intention. I mean, to apply for the goals from the beginning, having in mind the purpose of this integration, and seeing the change that we want to see. What outcome are we aiming for? The self-resilience, the higher self-esteem, to get the agency to those women or those survivors is our ultimate outcome that we need to keep our eyes on, because it's gonna light the way. It's gonna guide us into how to do it, how to integrate, how to analyze the risks, how to come up with recommendations with linkages to the community work, to advocacy, and towards policy change, to integration with other sectors. It's going to show us how, whenever we maintain the why and we maintain it intentionally, it will enable us to plan our resources, to know what we need, to actually map our gaps and know what to ask for. So this is my recommendation, if you allow me. And thank you so much for all of the great work, the amazing work that you're doing. Thank you.
Fida, thank you very much. You couldn't have talked more directly to us. We always ask why? Keep an eye on this why, and then I think other things will cascade from that. But exactly, being intentional, being strategic, and speaking, and in the steering committee, these are wise words. We take that back to the steering committee that is now guiding the next phase of this project. And as we work with members around the world, as you say, keep it in focus. Why are we doing this? What is the intention? What do we want to get out of this? Why? Thank you. I will ask your colleagues Emmanuel, would you, a few short words, like 1 minute max. Thank you.
Oui, oui. D'abord, je tiens à vous remercier encore une fois pour la qualité des interventions et la richesse des expériences. Ça montre qu'il y a des choses qui se font et dont il faut partager les résultats pour que le travail en commun se fasse de manière plus visible et qu'on atteigne les résultats que nous voulons. Alors, peut-être avant de vous laisser, essayer de vous dire ce qui me semble être l'essentiel pour les perspectives. Je pense qu'un des points fondamentaux pour moi qui ressort un tout petit peu, mais sur lesquels on n'a pas beaucoup épilogué, c'est la nécessité d'aider les communautés à trouver en elles-mêmes les ressources nécessaires pour aller de l'avant. C'est bien d'aider les communautés, mais un élément fondamental, c'est comment la communauté elle-même s'organise et essaye d'aller de l'avant, sans toutefois rester dans une attitude de dépendance. Le premier élément pour moi, c'est celui-là. Le deuxième élément qui est ressorti de discussion, c'est la nécessité de produire de l'évidence, mais une évidence qui soit aussi méthodologiquement solide, qu'on ne se base pas sur un cas, 2 cas, avec des approches qualitatives. Je ne dis pas que ce n'est pas important, mais ceux qui décident, eux, ils ont besoin de dimensions quantitatives, de dire un peu de mots, voilà, sur autant de personnes, la dimension épidémiologique de la chose, la dimension économique, voilà ce que nous avons obtenu par ce travail. Il faut donc, avant que je ne termine, il faut maintenir ce dialogue, ce genre d'échange. En gardant à l'esprit, j'insiste aussi sur les questions éthiques que peuvent soulever certaines de nos interventions. On a le bon sens de dire on aide les personnes, mais dans l'environnement où ces personnes vivent, il y a d'autres contextes qu'il faut prendre en compte. Je vais aller à l'extrême pour vous faire comprendre ce que je suis en train de dire. C'est qu'à un certain moment, il ne faut pas que dans une communauté, on se dit, j'aurais même mieux fait d'être torturé pour avoir accès aux subsistances qu'on donne aux autres. Je ne sais pas si vous voyez, c'est le côté cynique de la chose. C'est là, nous, on n'obtient pas des chèvres. On n'obtient rien, mais ceux qui ont été torturés, et ils sont aidés. Donc, j'aurais mieux fait, moi aussi, d'être torturé pour avoir accès à ces ressources. Donc, on doit savoir garder la ligne de conduite et expliquer les choses de manière assez claire. Encore une fois, je termine par souligner l'importance de la collaboration de réseaux, à la fois pour les organisations locales qui sont là, mais aussi pour essayer de trouver des ressources, soit locales ou internationales, pour vous accompagner sur le plan stratégique et technique, pour essayer de convaincre ceux qui ne le sont pas. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Professor. Really excellent points and a fantastic summary. I hope you all appreciate what we're doing here today is all about collaboration also. So we have academics, we've invited other organizations inside our house, so to speak, to give us some lessons learned and give us some guidance from their own great experiences. So our colleagues from Oxfam and Kia's really helpful, and the professor, of course, incredibly helpful. Please note in the chat, because it's so true, research is needed on this topic. We need evidence, right, to back this claim. So there will be a call, there is a call for proposals open right now for research on this topic to be submitted to the Torture Journal. about to put it in the chat. We can repost it there. Please encourage your colleagues or anyone else you know who's working on this topic. And we know, among others, that Dignity is doing some work on this. So we would invite Dignity and any other of the organizations within our network who are doing research on this topic, please submit. The more we can share the knowledge of what's been going on the ground, the better our arguments will be, the better we'll be able to answer the why question, and the better we'll be able to, you know, have great conversations with Oxfam and with HIAS in future, or UNDP, or whomever might be out there, to say this is our evidence. And our evidence is also backed incredibly strongly by survivor experience. So survivors will tell you the anecdotal story and we back her with evidence. Yeah. So on these words, I do think we have a brief evaluation data or a survey. We would love you to spend 2 minutes filling out. Murad, I'm really aware that you as the third devil's advocate didn't get a chance to speak at the end here, but if you have something you want to put in as final words, please feel free in the chat. Otherwise, participants, if you would be so kind to give us some feedback on this kind of webinar, that would be helpful.
And also just to add, we will be having more conversations around this topic in the next year. So building from experiences and learnings.
And as always, as we close here, we would invite you to, you know, if others out there have good ideas, we've heard many of them today, and we're trying to capture them, of how to share experiences. You know, we can do regional meetings on this. We could also do bilateral meetings. We can hook you up at different organizations. You know, if you're working on a different therapeutic approach, some are using the testimonial therapy, narrative exposure therapy. If you need to be connected, if you need help on market surveys, I'm sure, you know, Oxfam or HIAS is going to tell us where to go locally. There must be great organizations out there already doing this kind of thing. So it's about connecting good people, but it's also sharing, you know, generously our learnings. And we will see you in 2023. Please watch this space. We believe there will be, we know, because the evidence coming in is good, that there'll be more of this coming in future. So yeah, thank you very much. Any last words, Berta, I should be saying here now?
No last words, but that you have the call for papers on the chat, and please reach out to me for any thoughts on this topic that we explored today.
And thank you so much to all participants, and not least to our interpreters. So thanks a hand. We try and make these webinars, you know, accessible to all our Spanish speakers, our French speakers, in future, hopefully also our Arab speakers and our Russian speakers, but we'll get there. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Suraj.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Fida.
Bye. Great work.
Bye,
Thank you.
Bye.